Let's see where to begin. I think talk about Thomas Hanna, the author of this book. And I bought some second-hand ones. So if anybody gets really interested, they're there, and there's two piles actually. One are $10, and they're in really good shape, and one are $5, and they got a lot of underlining. So if anyone's interested, there they are. So Thomas Hanna, I think, was an incredible master. Unfortunately, I never got to meet him. He died in 1990, I believe. Just at the end of he gave a class teaching people how to do what he had learned how to do. And just at the end of the class, he got into a car crash, and so the people in his class carried on and developed a school, and it's still existent. It's still down there in Novato, California. And it hasn't, this work hasn't spread a whole lot. There are pockets of it. In the Bay Area, there's a lot. And there's a guy down in Texas, and there's some more on the East Coast, but it's never caught on like it should. And when I talk somewhat about it, you'll understand why I think it should be much more widely known and used. Okay, so Thomas Hanna worked for like 11 years before he did that class. And in those 11 years, he had the experience of working up a system of hard to know what to call it, somatic body work. But he studied first with Moshe Feldenkrais, who's a Israeli man who was quite an amazing healer himself. And Thomas Hanna invited him to come and teach in the school where Thomas Hanna was working, and then he studied from him. And he really liked what Feldenkrais was doing, and he took it a really important step beyond, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So as a background, I've put these guys up on the board. It's really hard. Like, I've done some studying in neurophysiology, not recently, but a while back, and they don't have a very good grasp of what's going on, unfortunately. So these categories are something that I've made up, pretty much. And I'm going to go through them because they're kind of at the heart of this whole process. The first one is voluntary habitual, a way of moving that's voluntary. It's in your control, but it's by habit. So I'm standing over here and I need to go pick up this book. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about which muscles are going to do what. I just do that. That's voluntary habitual, okay? And I can do, because I've learned over the years from childhood up pretty much how to get things moving, it's no problem to do this. Okay, the second one, voluntary conscious, that's a different story. In voluntary conscious movement, I need to be aware of what it feels like to do this movement, and we'll come to why that's important soon. So instead of just reaching for this book, I'm going to feel into it, feel what's happening in my arm and my shoulder and my back and so on. Okay, so that's the second one, voluntary conscious. The third one is frozen muscles. And this is really at the heart of the somatic work that Thomas Hanna involved. Frozen muscles are caused by a variety of circumstances, trauma. Then there are some repetitive, reflexive actions that I'll talk about soon. And the result of these things is that some muscle areas are not any longer in this voluntary area of either of these two. They can't be activated to do something. They can't be activated to relax. They're just stuck. And he had a name for that, Thomas Hanna did. He called it sensory motor, I lost a word. Sensory motor, SMA, sensory motor, amnesia. I had amnesia about amnesia. Sensory motor amnesia, okay. So, and that's his the heart of his work is this sensory motor amnesia thing. So you remember I talked in introducing this thing about the myth of aging. So the myth of aging, and then I'll get back to the last ones. The myth of aging claims that all of the various things that happen to us as we get older are the result of aging. Kind of makes sense in some kind of an odd way. And Thomas Hanna's claim is that they're not indeed at all the result of aging. They're the result of an accumulation of sensory motor amnesia in the muscle systems. And because that's true, it's possible to make changes. If it was just aging, then you're stuck, right? Uh-oh. Here I am. And I'm 80 years old, and this is it. Okay. So for Thomas Hanna, that was the doorway to how to change, how to take not only the ailments of aging, but all kinds of ailments, and work with them. And he spent a lot of time in the book, if you ever get to read it, talking about medical science, the way medical science works with patients. And it's completely externally oriented. And that's a key to his work also, that for medical science, this is a body. And you can look inside, you can look outside, but it's just a body. And that's what we're going to work with. It's like physical object out there, and we have to figure out what's wrong with it and do what we can to fix it. And he makes clear, Thomas Hanna makes clear, that he's not saying that that's wrong or bad. He's saying it's not complete. It's like half the story, something like that. The other half of the story is how we feel. So they use the word soma. Soma is like a living body, not just a body. It's got a spirit, it's got a soul, it's got feelings, it's got awareness of what, or it can have awareness of what's going on inside of it. And that brings us back to this voluntary conscious. The work that he designed is built around using voluntary conscious movements to try to alleviate or remove this sensory motor amnesia. Okay, so that's a good, for that, I'm going to say more about all of these things. There's a lot here. So the next one is reflexes. Reflexes are automatic. You're born with them. If somebody outside has a car backfire, we'll all go into it because it's just in us. If it's loud enough and scary enough, we'll really go into it. Okay, so reflexes are built in, and they're not going to change. They're not going to go away. They are part of our basic system. Main problem that comes up with reflexes is when, for whatever reason, they get turned on a lot and not turned off. So he felt that happened a lot from stress. And so for this reflex, this one, he called this the red light reflex, or the withdrawal. And it's that reflex is common all throughout the animal kingdom, right? Every creature out there, when it gets scared, it gets into a protective mode automatically. They don't have to think about it or wonder, do I have to? It just happens. Boom. So for humans, there are kind of levels involved here. The extreme one is the one where something is just dreadfully frightening and you go into it. But there's all kinds of stresses in our lives that are not as severe, but they activate the reflex to a degree, right? Anxiety, worry, or some of them, apprehension. So those kind of things, if they're repetitive or if they're happening all the time, we just begin to adopt some of this posture. And pretty soon the body says, if you're going to stay like this all the time, I don't need to stay connected with these muscles. I got better things to do. And so they get disconnected. They go into sensory motor amnesia, and then they don't know how to do anything. Now, that creates a lot of problems. The body is really designed in the ideal of our design. All of the muscles know how to work together. it's all synergy. It's not like one muscle does stuff. They all work together. And so that our movement is always a combination of a whole variety of muscles working together. But when there's this amnesia present, the whole system is a little bit thrown out of whack. And it can affect the whole body because what has to happen is the body needs to compensate for that missing part, right? So some other muscles get to do some of the work that one needed to do, and then they're a little bit out of place, so some other muscles have to help them, and blah, blah, blah. Goes to the whole body. It can go to the whole body. And the effects of all of this are a lot of these symptoms of old age. And a lot of the symptoms that we have, not necessarily of old age. He makes it clear that really young people can get some of the same symptoms as turn up in 70 or 80-year-old people. And it's all for the same. Like if some young person, a teenager or younger, is in all kind of stress situation, the same thing is going to be happening to them. It's going to have SMA setting in, and then it'll show up in their bodies as whatever. So, yeah, I wanted to read to you there's a list. That red light reflex. We're down here. Red light reflex. There's a really nice outline of all the things that happen. And it's interesting, it happens from, let me back up just a minute before I get there. So the sensory motor system, I haven't really talked about that. That's just kind of background, but I need to mention it. There's two kind of nerves in our body. There's some that come up, and they come out of the front of the spine, and they come up to an area in the front of the brain, and then those are the muscle, the motor neurons, and then the sensory neurons come up from the back of the spine and up to an area just behind the other one. So they have their separate little areas up there. And normally, they work in total coordination, and they work so fast it's hard to believe, because the sensory neurons will be sending messages about, for example, where this hand is in space. If I'm reaching, my brain is continually getting messages about where it is. So as I'm coming along here, it's already gotten who knows how many messages about where it is, so that when I'm reaching for something, I reach for it. I don't just, well, like little babies don't have this yet, right? And they're just wandering around. They don't have the whole connection yet. So that's the half. Half is the information coming back. The other half is, okay, the motor system reads that and says, okay, we're going to keep going in this direction. So it's sending motor impulse to these muscles to go. And so it's system of information that happens in all of our movement, and it happens so fast, it just totally blows my mind. The impulses in the nerves are so fast that we can, like, you can reach for something really quickly, and it's still going to work. I can still end up where I want to go. So that's that part. Now, I was going to read to you about the reflex, this red light reflex, the startle reflex that we talked about. So it starts contraction of jaw, eyes, and brow. It starts in the up near the upper near the brain, or the lower aspects of the brain. The reflexes are not part of the conscious brain. They're part of the more primitive areas back lower down in the brain. So the reflex starts there, and so it starts in the face, jaw, eyes, and brow. Do whatever they're going to do. Next comes the shoulders, raising the shoulders, bringing the head forward, like that. Elbows bend and palms, on the hands, turn palms down. So, something like that. Abdominal muscles contract. That brings the trunk forward, brings the rib cage down, and stops the breath, really. Then the knees bend and point inward. The ankles roll the feet inward. And the muscles of the crotch tighten. And the toes lift upward. I don't get why that happens, but so that's an interesting. It's a cascade of things that come down through the body like that, and again, really fast. I mean, the reflexes happen with no time to think about. Oh, I think I'm in danger. I better do this, right? They're not part of our conscious process at all. So that's one of the reflexes. The other reflex that's a main one for the somatics work is called the green light reflex. And the green light reflex begins with infants. As you know, as an infant is quite young and lying there, it can't do anything. Its head is down, its feet are out in the back, and that's where it is. You can be holding it in the middle, and it's just flopped down. At a certain point, it learns that it can use the muscles of the back. Oh, I can lift my head. Whoa, whoa. I can lift my feet. Whoa, whoa. And it gets much more interesting for the baby, because then it can even begin to move itself. And it grows like that. That's the, what do they call that thing? The Landau, I think it is, yeah. Landau reflex. And so the Landau reflex helps at first for just so that all of this can happen. Some strength in the back. So it gives us the possibility of standing. If we were still stuck in that place, there's no standing, right? And it also, for children, it just gives a lot of, an impetus to action, and they play with it, and they run around and jump, and do all the great things that children do. Something I just love to see is kids out there, and they're not self-conscious, and they're not doing anything to show off. They're just playing. And they're playing with this green light reflex. And then as we get older, the reflex is still available, and we're able to stand and whatnot. But especially in our Western culture, we end up with a lot of reasons to want to do stuff. Like we have a job, and we got to get up early, and we got to make breakfast, and I've got a quota that I have to meet, and na. And all of those end up in the back with an excessive use of this movement, which is really an action movement. It's the opposite of the red light. The red light is withdraw and protect. The green light is, gotta go. And that affects the muscles of the back. So first we had the muscles of the front, and we had the muscles of the back being affected. And let's see, I think I had a list of some of that too, yeah. Chronic pain in skull, neck, shoulders, back, and buttocks. Especially low back. Low back is an epidemic, and low back pain is an epidemic in our world, unfortunately. And not only is it an epidemic, but as far as somatics goes, that's where it gets interesting, because the medical world doesn't know what to do about it. They try all kinds of things to get people to have pain-free low backs, but it's the same doctors who are doing all this who also have pain-free low backs, pained low backs, and they really don't know what to do. So that's the reflexes. And it's this, under conditions of stress, the reflexes get overused, and the muscles that are involved eventually become accustomed to being tight wherever they are. And then sensory motor amnesia has set in. And then all the consequences of sensory motor amnesia begin to manifest, right? It's not pleasant. All the things that can happen from that as the foundation, right? So Thomas Hanna makes a lot of distinction about how these problems that emerge in this way are not structural. They're treated as kind of part of the structure of our bodies by the external observers, the medical, but they're functional. They're functional in terms of the functioning of the nervous system. The function's out of whack, and the apparent structural stuff. So you can imagine somebody who has a fair amount of both of these happening is in really serious place, right? Because they got two conflicting energies. One is an energy that's pulling towards the front. One is an energy that's contracting up, pushing that way. So here, I've seen one person who had an extreme of this in one of my classes one time. This poor guy was so bound up, like he was here like this, and he couldn't even get down and up by himself. It's really hard to walk. And that's the most extreme I've ever seen of that. But many of us carry much lighter, and some of us may have more of the red light, some maybe have more of the green light, and whatever, each person is going to be different. And there are other sources of this SMA, sensory motor amnesia, and trauma is another source that needs to get mentioned. If you have an accident and break your leg and have to wear a cast for a couple of months or maybe longer, depends, that will heal. That broken bone will heal. But while it's healing, you have to involve a whole bunch of other muscles to keep being able to stand or whatever that you need to do. You begin tightening up other sets of muscles to compensate for what's not available in this leg. It could even be a sprained ankle. If it's severe enough, you're kind of busy, maybe limping, and using this other side for support, and of course the same thing happens. The muscles that you use for support get themselves into some kind of contraction. And then SMA can set in. And there you are. You've got a bunch of muscles in your left leg that are kind of tight. Your right leg, meanwhile, has healed and there's nothing broken anymore. But you're stuck with what's happening on the left because that doesn't go away when your bone heals. So that's another kind of example of how trauma, different kinds of trauma, can create the same SMA condition. Okay, what are we happening here? This last one is an interesting one, programmed controllable. So I'll talk about the breath. The breath is the best example of this. Our breathing, our natural, normal breathing, if we haven't had it messed around with over the course of our lives, the body knows how to breathe itself, right? The diaphragm goes down, the belly expands a little, the air comes in and fills up here, the diaphragm relaxes, the air goes out, and it all can happen kind of automatically. You don't, for anybody who has their natural breath, they don't have to think about it or need to do anything, but at the same time, you can breathe faster, you can breathe deeper, you can hold your breath, you can do all those things. So that's the controllable part. It doesn't have to, it can be just doing its thing, or you can have it do some special things, and we do that all the time. So those are five, a very simplified view of how the muscles of the body and the muscle-nerve combination, how it works, what it does. And it's helpful, this kind of a understanding is helpful when we come to look at SMA and myth of aging. There's one more important one that I need to mention. The myth of aging is a theme that keeps coming up in Thomas Hanna's book. And he's got a whole chapter on on expectation and the power of expectation. Basically, that what you expect will happen to you probably will. Doesn't have to, but it's pretty likely. And so the myth of aging, our whole set of beliefs around aging, which are that as you get older, things just start falling apart. And that's just the way it is. Things are going to stop functioning well, and this is going to, this is going to go, and this is going to go. And that's the myth. And all of these things that seem to be happening because they're caused by aging are, many of them at least, are caused by sensory motor amnesia. And not only that, but as I mentioned earlier, they can happen at any age. They tend to be more concentrated as we get older. But a child who's been severely stressed in one way or another begins to develop some of these symptoms. So basically what he suggests is it's really important to turn around your expectations about aging and begin to feel good about the process of aging and expect that it's going to get better and better. Why not? And that's what'll happen. Along with, and then he's got this whole set of exercises that he does, somatic exercises. And in the back of the book, there's a collection of them, and that's kind of what I teach in classes, is these movement patterns. And the movement patterns are done in that second mode, voluntary conscious. Everything is very slow, gentle, no stress, no strain, and very, very aware. So I think that's kind of given you the basic ideas. What I'd like to do is take some time to see if there are any questions. And if there are no questions, I'd like to show you some examples of some of the exercises that can be done to work with the accumulation of these amnesias. So, okay.
I have a question. Amnesias, so like when we get wrinkles or sagging skin, somehow that part of your body is forgetting to...
I'm not sure about
I wonder
wrinkles.
about
I don't know. That's a good question,
though, yeah.
but I don't know the answer.
Okay.
And I get wrinkles.
And it's your wrinkles.
But there are exercises you can do,
Yeah.
facial exercises, to
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, actually, I've heard tapping. Like acupuncture?
not tapping, no.
Yeah.
You do,
Different.
well,
Or acupuncture
the
stuff.
heart of this, I didn't get a chance to get to this part yet, but the heart of this exercise system is to over-contract whatever it is that's in contraction. I'm sorry, I didn't, this was a piece that is kind of crucial and I never got to it, but here we are. So, to over-contract the part that you're aware is contracted, or just to do general over-contractions if you don't have any specific thing. Over-contract and then slowly release. So the over-contraction helps shift the attention from the automatic place where the muscle's being held from the brain, from the lower brain, shifts it up to the learning center, the voluntary conscious center, and then you slowly release the contraction that you've made, and that teaches, with the sensory motor process going on, that teaches the brain, oh, this is how this muscle relaxes, or these muscles. Usually it's not just one muscle, it's an area. So this is how it relaxes, and this is how it feels when it's relaxed and empty, which is totally forgot. It just doesn't know that. And meanwhile, the habit is still hasn't just gone away. They're very persistent. So that kind of thing has to be done with some frequency. Like these exercises, they're good to do for a while, at least in your life, quite often, like once a day or something, so that you begin. What happens in the brain, apparently, is new neuronal connections are being made that have to do with how this muscle moves and how it relaxes. And you're teaching the brain. So it's an interesting part of this, that you're doing exercises, which we normally think of as, okay, that's body work, right? But it's brain work. And what we do with the muscles is just a way of stimulating learning in the brain, which is hard for people to get used to. I've got a guy I've been working with for a while, and he's determined to get strong, and it's taking him a while to realize that that's not what we're doing. We're trying to educate the brain, not make the muscles stronger. And we're so in the habit, you go to the gym and that's what you do. You make your muscles stronger. And it's definitely not voluntary conscious. You got the TV on, and you got your machine, and you're watching whatever. You're kind of out of it as far as your body goes, but and it's effective in some ways, but it's not effective in helping to remove some of these blocked issues. So there's a whole set for the face, like of contraction and release, right? So here's your brow, and then slowly let it go.
And do it very consciously.
Feel it, yeah. You got to feel it and let it go, and you can just go through your face. Here's your jaw muscles. And loosen them slowly. The slow and gentle part is really important. It's not, if you overdo it in any of these movements, then you bring a whole bunch of other muscles involved, and there's no clarity for your brain to learn from. That's another one that's difficult for people. They figure if doing this contraction is going to help, then I'm going to contract to the max, and it doesn't work that way. All the body needs is to feel that, oh, I feel all those muscles back there. Letting go. Just to feel them, to be aware of what's happening inside. Thomas Hanna talked about first person and third person. Third person is like what happens to you when you go to somebody who's going to work on you, whatever they're going to do. You're a body, and they're going to work on your body. First person is you working on your body, feeling it from the inside, which no practitioner can do, only you. It's interesting. There's no therapist around who's going to help you to feel, they can suggest it. So he calls this somatic education. And the education part, I think it's a good term because it's not somatic therapy. Therapy already has that feeling of somebody's going to work on you. And somatic education is you're learning how to work with your own body. And the practitioner just helps you to do that learning, not to fix anything. One thing, for example, cats. Cats do that process, by the way, is called pandiculation, the contraction and slow release. Pandiculation, and it happens in the animal kingdom as well as us. And like a cat, especially like when it wakes up in the morning, there's this tightening of everything, and then let's go. So that's to your question. The release is part of the reflex unless something is happening to make it stick. Yeah. And normally we, in our normal use of these reflexes, we do. If you hear that car thing go off, bang, you're here, and then there's nothing to be afraid of, and it's over. It's not like it causes sensory motor amnesia. That only happens when it's repeated again and again and again until it kind of sets in. Yeah, I think that kind of makes. Yeah.
Try not to touch the microphone if you can.
Do what? Try not to touch it. I forgot that's what was here. There was something itching me, but. So if you people are interested, we could do a little bit of somatic movement so you can get the feel for what it's like. And we can do it sitting. We don't have to. Ideally this is done lying down. And the purpose of doing it lying down is that you can pretty much totally relax. You can let go. You're just kind of sinking into the floor, and your muscles can lose all of their tone. But when you're standing, if your muscles lose all their tone, down you go. Or even sitting, your body's doing some kind of work too. So.
I've been sitting
Yeah. So maybe I'll sit too and I can show you what we're going to be doing. Okay, he has this thing that he calls the cat stretch series. I don't know. I think the name keeps getting shifted around, but there are 9 movement patterns, really. And they're designed to kind of go through the whole body in a general way, not specific to any particular issue, but going through the areas that tend to be the ones like the muscles in the front, from the red light reflex. These tend to end up with some kind of partially contracted state. I'm very aware of that because mine have got it. And the muscles of the back, the muscles of the side. We didn't talk much about the muscles of the side, but they can also be affected. So the exercises in the back go through all of that, and I think anybody who wants to do those, it's good to learn them in a class, and once you've learned them, then you're on your own. And it's also my experience that once you get the basics of this and the basic idea of it, you can use it with yourself anytime, anywhere, Suddenly you become aware, oh, there's something really tight up here in my shoulder. Then you figure out how to over-contract it and slowly release it. And slowly release. And you're going to have to do that a bunch of times until it's not bothering you anymore. As I said, that process takes time. It's not a quickie, unfortunately. It'd be nice. So if you ever get to read in this book, what Thomas Hanna did was pretty miraculous. He did a lot of hands-on work with his people who came to him. But even the hands-on work is not on a body. It's on a conscious being. So as he's doing the hands-on work, sometimes, like, say it's a problem in the shoulder, well, you could move your shoulder and come back and tighten up some of these muscles and come back. And he, as the practitioner, could be right there putting some pressure on your shoulder. So as you tighten up, it helps your brain to feel that muscle. And then you'd slowly release, keeping that little pressure. And so that would be what he would be doing as a practitioner. He's still not a body worker. He's still an educator. So he's educating your body, helping it to learn how to relax these muscles. Okay, so the first movement here in the book has to do with the low back, which is a good one. And the way the low back movement works, you'd be doing this lying down, but you can also do it sitting up. So it begins taking a breath in. Okay, so be aware as you breathe that your belly goes out a little bit. Diaphragm goes down, the belly expands a little bit. Okay, now we're going to add to that, as you breathe in, tighten up your low back muscles so you're kind of making a little arch in the back of your lower back. And as soon as you get that arch, slowly let it go. No need to hold on to it. What you're doing is over tightening muscles in the low back that may very well be tight, and some degree of sensory motor amnesia. So again, breathe in and arch. Breathe out and slowly let it go. So once more, the same one. Breathe in and arch. And slowly release. And there's a little trick I sometimes like to use. Just take a regular breath without arching anything. And then as you breathe out, see if there isn't a little extra that you can let go of in your low back. I always have some. Because there's a kind of residual holding that I haven't really relaxed all the way. I thought I was relaxing, but there's still tightness in there. So, okay, so that's the first movement. The second one is the opposite of that one. That would be for the green light reflex, the one in the back. The next one's for the red light reflex, the one in the front. So you're going to breathe in, just breathe in normally. And then as you breathe out, tighten your whole abdomen. Tighten from the sternum here down to the pubic bone. Everything tight. And then let it release. And again, everything. So breathe in, normal breathe in, and then breathe out and tighten all the stomach muscles. And then release. So usually about, 3 times is a good practice. Once more, breathe in, breathe out, tighten up the stomach muscle, and let it out slowly. Okay, that would be number 1. Then I think it'd be good to shift. Number 2 is more with this front, but let's go on to some other things. There's a nice collection for the neck and the head and the shoulders. So let's see. Okay, so we'll start with your right shoulder. And what you're going to do is just lift your right shoulder up. Feel the muscles up above your shoulder and into your neck. Feel them tighten. And then feel them slowly let go. This is a good one to let your arm hang in your... So the weight of your arm kind of... So lift up slowly into this shoulder thing. And then slowly, just to let the weight of your arm pull your shoulder down. And we can do one more. Shoulder up, slowly down. Now we can do that same little trick we did before. Keep your arm down for a minute. Take a breath in and see if there's more that you can let go of in your shoulder. I had a whole bunch. Yep. Okay, let's go to the other side. Shoulder up and let it down as completely relax, although it won't be. And up again, feeling the muscles tighten as much as you can, and feeling them slowly let go as your weight of your arm pulls down. It's not a bad idea to close your eyes if you're okay with that. Pull up. Slowly let go. And then when you're down and relaxed, take a breath and see if you can let go of some more. Okay, good. So I think for many people, we're not used to actually feeling the weight of our arms pulling our shoulders down. We hold them up a little bit. And so that would be a source for some sensory motor amnesia in the shoulders, and that would be a source for possibly for some of the shoulder ailments that people come up with just from holding them guys up. It feels kind of strange to feel just to let them be hanging there and hanging from your shoulder without any holding up. It's an interesting feeling. Okay. And we can go to the neck. And for this, we're going to use a hand. So you can use your right hand. I'll do the left so we're a mirror. So this is what you're going to be doing, is turning your head to the right. But as you turn, use that hand to kind of resist you. This is what the practitioner would be doing. So you turn and you build up a kind of a load between your neck muscles and your hand. And you can feel into your neck and then keep that same load, but let your head come back. Use the muscles relaxing to bring your head back. This is tricky. So you're not actually pushing your head back with your hand. You're letting the muscles bring your head back, and the pressure of your hand is just there to keep reminding the muscle what it feels like. that's a tricky thing to learn because it'd be easy just to push your head back with your hand. But this is different. So feel it. You can even use your other hand and see if you can feel which neck muscles are working. I get this big one here coming right out. And then use that muscle to bring your head back. And then relax. Okay, let's go the other way. So turning. As you turn, you kind of build. You turn without much pressure, and then as you keep turning, you hold a little more and more and more until you get a nice strong connection between the muscles in your neck and your hand. And then let those muscles bring your head back. Okay, we'll do that one again. Turn out. And slowly come back. So this is, it's very easy to shift from number 2 to number 1. Number 1 is the habitual one. Then it becomes just mechanical. You're turning your head, you're coming back, but you're not aware of who's doing what inside. So the idea is to keep it, yeah.
Is it coordinated with the breath at all? Is it coordinated with the breath in the in or out?
You could, yeah. Breathe in as you go over, breathe out as you come back. That would be good.
And Victor, are you relaxing the muscles on the same side of the head as you're coming back? Or are you relaxing, is it these muscles
Well,
bringing?
it's the ones down in here that are really doing the work.
So on the left side, yeah, so your left side muscles are relaxing and letting your right side muscles do the work to bring it back?
Letting the opposite side. Right and left is confusing.
Right,
because
opposite, right.
They're doing the median.
So
Yeah.
which side is tense and which side is relaxed?
this side is pushing my hand out. There's probably some in here too that
This side,
tighten,
yeah.
but
So
these are the
it's-
ones we're interested
Yeah,
in.
So it's bringing your hand back too, your head back,
Yeah,
the opposite side.
yeah, they bring the head back.
Okay.
Yes,
Why do you use, to me it seems hazardous to use the term over-tightening, wondering why you specifically use the word over-tightening.
could you say it again? My ears are not great.
Over-tighten?
Over tighten?
Yeah, that seems hazardous to me.
It is hazardous. I think all of this needs to be gentle.
Needs
You're
to
right.
be-
Gentle, you're right. If you overdo it, then a whole bunch of other muscles are going to get involved and you're not going to learn much. It's just confusion. So yeah, just turning and coming back. That's a great question, thank you. Good reminder. It's so easy to think that if you're doing this, the more you do it, the better, but it's not true. And pause. Pause between just for a little bit, because that's when the brain says, oh, that's what this muscle feels like when it's relaxed. So you don't want to just keep going. Yeah. Okay, here's a more complicated one with the necks. With the neck. So now we're going to turn the head and look up. And at the same time we do that, we're going to take the opposite shoulder, as we were doing before, and lift it. So turn the head, look up, and raise your opposite shoulder, and everything comes back down. This works a whole different set of muscles. A lot of it in these upper, the trapezius, these upper. Okay, so turn, lift your chin, lift your shoulder. You can feel those things in your back and in your neck. And then release them. I love doing this.
I do too.
It starts to feel really,
It's really
good.
nice. When you get to relax, it's like, oh, wow.
There's something, you know, the sympathetic, parasympathetic. I believe that the so-called sympathetic, which is really the fight or flight one, they claim that it's either on or off. And I don't think that's true. I think it comes in degrees. So if you have a tight muscle somewhere, that's a little bit of sympathetic nerve use working with that. And if you, like what we're doing now, we're releasing some of those, you shift more into the parasympathetic mode and it feels really good. It's the relaxation mode. Okay, let's do that one more.
Same side?
Same side, turn. We weren't using the hand now. Lift. And the opposite shoulder. And everything back. And pause. And then we can go the other way. Turn to the other side. Lift your chin and the opposite shoulder. Feel those muscles in the back working and in your neck. Come back slowly and pause. Okay, once again, turning, lifting your chin and your shoulder. Try to keep the other shoulder relaxed. Coming down and turning back. Pausing for a moment. And once more, turning, lifting the chin and the shoulder, coming slowly back. Let those muscles bring you back. Okay. I'm starting to feel it. So the next is activate some different muscles. It's the same kind of a neck thing, but this time you're going to turn your head one way and then tip it with your ear toward your shoulder. Okay. So let's try just that part. Turn and then tip your head over. Okay, and then now what's going to happen is we're going to, come on back. Now what's going to happen is we're going to lift the same shoulder. So it's a whole different, works with a whole different set of muscles in the back. So turn your head, maybe it doesn't have to go all the way because then it'd be hard to tip it. Tip over and lift your chin and your shoulder. Same shoulder. And then everything back to the center. Okay, once again, turn, tip your head, lift your chin just straight up toward the ceiling and your shoulder up. The other shoulder relaxed and back to the center. Okay, I think that was twice. Let's do one more. Turn, tip over your ear to your shoulder and then lift your chin and your shoulder. Feel all the tightening going on and slowly let it go. Pause there for a minute. I think we're due for the other side now. I start doing this and I begin to lose track. So turning to the other side, tipping your ear over, lifting your shoulder and your chin, and down and back. So again, turning and tipping, lifting chin and shoulder, and back to the center. You might want to notice your low back as you do this. See if it stays relaxed. Okay, turning, tipping over, and lifting chin and shoulder, and everything back. Okay, we could do a little more with the neck. Necks are one of those areas that
That's where I get it. That's where I get my pain, neck, and, yeah.
So if you can remember what we're doing
Mm-hmm.
and do it with some frequency,
Mm-hmm.
it should help.
But this will be on our YouTube channel
Ooh.
in probably a day or two.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So just go to rvml.org and scroll down and you'll see the YouTube. Click that and that'll take you right to it.
Ah, great,
Yeah.
great.
Just got down. Just so I don't get in the way of the camera.
Okay, so here's another way to work with the neck. You can lift your chin in up one side, kind of in a diagonal. So it works all kind of muscles in the back of your head and in your neck, and then come back to neutral. Repeat that up into an angle and back to the center. One thing I haven't mentioned is if any of these movements are painful, do them smaller. Do them small enough that you come maybe to the edge of the pain, but you don't go into it. And the surprising thing that sometimes happens is that you can then begin to go a little further and a little further and a little further, and it doesn't hurt. But if you go all the way, right away, it's going to hurt, and it's not going to change. You got to go, well, then you better go.
It was a great presentation, really.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. These two lovely people have been into my class before. And thank you for coming. Okay, we'll go a little further with this one. The next part of it is the opposite, like we're making an X shape. So the opposite would be bringing your chin down into the, I don't know, right and left, but across, making an X from the first one, or half an X, and back up again. And then down. And back up. It's a whole different set of muscles that get engaged. Okay, and then a few times we can do that line of the X. And this kind of work where you do repeat a pair of opposite movements helps the whole muscle system to be aware, like you're going to go up and down. So you're switching off from one set of muscles that lift you, and they relax. And then a whole different bunch pull your chin down. And this helps those muscle systems, to learn how to work together. So in the case of this kind of thing where you do the opposites, it's always good to do one side and then the other side first, and then the two, because as you do one side, those muscles come to understand what you want them to do, and then you do the other side. So let's go to the other arm of this X, going up the other way and back to the center. And up. So I notice that I have some tender spots where this goes. So I'm trying to stay within that. Not push into the pain area. when you push into a pain area, it activates protection. So go the other way down into the opposite corner and back up again and down, up again. Okay. And then really nice and slowly the whole range up, down through the center, and down the other way. Feels good. Okay.
Do you pause in the middle, or you just keep going?
Well, be aware that you're passing through the middle. You don't have to pause, but just that's the end of that one. You could pause a little bit or just feel the transition, right? So this whole business with the neck keeps going, and there's a couple more we can do. Because the neck tends to be carrying a lot of stuff, it's not a bad idea to...
Can you do some for the jaw?
Okay,
Because I'm feeling a lot of jaw stuff.
okay, let's try some jaw stuff. So you can put your thumb under your chin, and what you're going to do is open your mouth and do that same thing we did of build up a little bit of a load onto your thumb. And then use your thumb to just keep the pressure. You're not pushing your chin back up, keeping the pressure and using these muscles that you feel in your jaw. Using those muscles to bring themselves to relax. Okay, one more. You can really focus your awareness in those muscles and let them do the work. Okay, then do another one of those. One more of those. Nice and slow. Okay.
Give me yawn.
too.
Then we'll do the reverse. The reverse is to put your finger across the top of your chin. Open your mouth, and then you're going to close it with resistance from your finger. And then slowly open it. So I'm having the experience as I do this, that it's going bump, 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 bump. And that's an indication that you've got some chronic holding in there when you get the bump, bump, bump. So, once again, opening. Closing. One more. Opening.
I never knew I used those muscles when I opened my mouth.
Pardon?
I never knew that I used those muscles when I opened my mouth. I don't know how I thought it happened, but I didn't think it was that.
You weren't aware of it.
It is interesting how it's going so slow like this really
You pay
makes you
attention.
hyper aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now we can go sideways.
Oh.
So you're just going to slide. There's no opening. You're going to, I guess, put a hand on one side and slide your jaw into this hand. And then bring it back. This one's kind of bumpy for me too. Okay, off again. And slowly back. Once more. Other side. Sliding out and slowly back. And again, out. And back. And out. And back. So if that feels like it's helpful to you, it's good to repeat those.
Daily or?
Well, you know, that, what we just did takes, what, 3 minutes? So it's not a big deal. You could do it daily for a
You can just do
while.
it Standalone, you don't need to do that.
Once you've done it for a little while and you begin to feel like there's no bumpiness, for me, that's the clue. If in your return thing, it goes da 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 da. That tells you need to keep doing that one for a while
I
till
felt
it gets,
that when we were doing
clear.
the shoulder. That's
yeah,
releasing
Yeah.
out or something.
yeah, same. So that means it's not, there's some parts that are not firing right, I would guess. So these are some of the strongest muscles in the body, I believe. These jaw muscles.
Mine was a lot stronger on one side. The
Uh-huh.
first side I did was much stronger. I almost could hardly get it going the other way.
So that's a good practice for you. Work on the one that's not wanting to go.
It didn't seem stuck, it just seemed really weak.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Any other part anybody wants to play with? Maybe we're good.
You're gonna have a class, you'll let us know?
Pardon?
You're gonna have a class where we can actually participate in the exercise?
Well, yeah, I'm eager to start a class. The 2 ladies who left, they want to be in it.
I'm interested.
And put a sign-up sheet up there if anybody wants to do this as a class. In the class, we go through that whole series until you've learned that, and then we branch out. This stuff with the neck and the jaw and stuff, that's not in that series, but we branch out and do different things.
You were saying that one would lie down when doing at least the back ones, but how about the shoulder and this one, we would sit up probably?
Yeah, for this one, that one, it doesn't matter so much for the shoulders. And
You could lay down and
you could do that laying down, yeah. Yeah. The first, I think I mentioned, the first 5 little chapters in this book are astonishing. They're examples of some of his, well, he had this, 11 years worth, but he worked with thousands of people over that time. And he picked these 5 as examples of what's possible, and I presume he had this kind of success with a lot of his clients. But those 5 are like astonishing. I mean, he was a master.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.